a good one. And action.
Welcome back to the Next Possession podcast. Today we got Jason with us all the way from Canada. Hello, Jason.
Hey, nice to see you guys again.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Jason. Yeah, we've got a few
Of
questions
course.
for you, Jason, all your time coaching and stuff. So the first one that I was going to go with, Jason, is when you were here, your desire was like crazy. Like every single time you were like on the floor and stuff, you always had your little notebook out. You were always sort of like questing to get better. I'm wondering where that came
Yeah.
from. And when you was a player, did you have that sort of emphasis to get better, or is it kind of something you picked up when you started coaching?
I think it kind of picked up in between. Like, obviously, you guys know, but I got hurt, and then that's kind of how I got into coaching. So I think that's kind of where it came from, was the fact that I wanted to be good enough to do it. That was the easiest way for me to learn, was to watch people and then make notes on it. So it's kind of just my way of learning, I guess.
Yeah. But I'd almost argue, because I saw you play a little bit, that you weren't really like that when you was a player.
Well, I definitely was not like that. Like, I was not no. I was the complete opposite. But that's what I mean. I think because I got hurt, and then I realized how much I actually wanted it. I knew that
Yeah.
that side of it was kind of past me. Like, that's where like the hunger to really try and get better at coaching came from.
Yeah. What was your injury again?
ACL twice.
Jason
bad.
Jason used to have hops, man.
I wish.
Well, yeah, you used to be quick, didn't you? You used to like get to basket, and yeah, you used to be a good player.
Yeah, it wasn't quite too bad. I had a little bit of something.
Yeah. Well, when you sort of transitioned to coaching, I'd say that you probably took more of a sort of like step towards skill development. Would you agree with that? Or
Yeah, I think that came from the fact that obviously when I was younger, I was made to be because I was the biggest guy. And
Yeah.
then obviously that was part of the reason why I got cut from the national team when I went through it. Obviously other reasons too, but that was definitely part of it. So I didn't want that to happen to other people. And equally the
Okay,
way
yeah.
the game's going, it's everyone is everything. There's not really many teams in the world which are still really like positions to where you need to be.
Yeah. Well, what do you think for a coach, or do you think, because I get branded that all the time, that I'm just a skills coach? It kind of annoys me a little bit. Do you think you're a skills coach, or you just think you're a coach? You think like both sort of, any sort of coach should be able to do both sides, X's and O's, and skill, and
I think you should be able to do both sides for sure. But I do think that I'm still more a skills coach than an X's and O's coach.
yeah.
But I think that also just comes from my preference of, I guess, the style of basketball. Like, I still think that being able to just play and know how to play is more important than having a specific thing to get you an open shot. Because once you go up the levels, it don't come down to can we draw something amazing to make a shot. It's you got to go and actually do something to create the shot.
Well, you've obviously started with fingers, so we talk about X's and O's and stuff. You started with the under 11s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, that's a bit more skill development stuff, I'm guessing. How have you been finding that with the under 11s?
Honestly, it's fun. Here, the way it works is a bit different. Like, we don't get so long to like actually have the team before we start playing. So I'm probably only going to get maybe like 10 sessions before we start playing. So it's like I'm having to do skill stuff, but then also have to try and get ready to be able to play. But the other thing here, which is really big, is skills trainers. Like, most men in the 11s go to skills trainers. So it's like they're already very skilled.
All right, do you think that's
Whereas,
a benefit?
like, obviously at home, we don't have as many people who are doing that for a living. So it's more difficult. But
Yeah. But do you not think that that can sometimes have a negative when everyone's just going to like a skills trainer? Do you not think you should get that more from, you should get that more from your club a little bit more? Or?
I think it's a negative in the sense of it means that they've all got very good skill set, but then it means they all want to be able to do the same thing. And as you know, not everyone gets the same amount of rope to be able to do the same amount of things. And that doesn't matter whether you've got 8 guys who are very good or if you've only got 3 guys that are very good on a team of 12, let's say. Like, still people are going to have a different ability to be able to do things in a different amount of, I guess, leverage themselves. And then it comes down to, well, how well can you actually use the skills to put yourself and your teammates in a good position to be able to play and make right choices.
That's hard at under 11s.
Yeah.
Like everyone's, young. I wonder
Yeah.
when you were the under 11s,
Well-
like, yeah, go on.
I was just gonna say, honestly, with the under 11s, I've kind of been going to that, like, still doing how I usually coach, which obviously you guys know, but then mixing in some more of this CLA type stuff, like just small sided games, just giving rules. And so far it's working reasonably well.
How do you do it? Like, because I always struggle with doing the younger ones. How you keep it fun while still keeping good standards? Do anything about
I
that?
think that's the thing. I think they're doing the small sided games where they get set rules is helping for sure. Like, obviously, I'm trying to teach them 5 out, trying to get them doing our 5 out because it's just overpowered still, especially at younger age groups. But I just make it so that if they don't do what they're supposed to do, we just do a turnover, and then we get the next team going or the next rep going. So it's more so keeping the standards in terms of, like, if they don't at least attempt to do what they're supposed to be doing, and then we just move on to the next team or the next person or whatever the case is in that drill.
With your coaching in Australia, do you see any like major differences? Because like there's a lot of differences between the men's age groups of England, Australia, and Canada. But do you see much difference in the younger age groups, like under 11s? Because you saw our younger program, and I imagine you saw some in Australia. What would you say the biggest difference between the 3 junior programs is?
I think it's the amount of time they've been playing for. I do think that is a big factor. Is like here, some of the kids have already been playing for like 3 years, 4 years. Like at home, normally you're lucky if you're getting kids at 10 years old to come down. And then I think in Australia, they're the same thing. They've probably only been playing for a year maybe, or a couple of years. I think as well, the programming of it is a little bit different. Obviously our stuff at home's more the local sports hall, all for all, whatever it was called, stuff, which isn't really too serious. Like, it's not really like there's many coaches who have a crazy amount of knowledge who are doing those type of things. I think Australia, it's fun orientated. And then here's like the mix of the two. It's like, it's a bit more serious, but it's also, we know the 10. So it's not like it's the biggest thing in the world. Like, we're just trying to get them better, trying to make sure that they're having fun.
Yeah. Obviously, Australia, though, like Australia in the past good few years, probably started booming a little bit in Australia, like player development wise. They started creating some of the national teams have obviously been really good. I wonder if there's anything over there that
Yeah.
they were doing, like more on the skill development side, that was maybe happening that you saw, or
I think, again, the same thing. The only thing I really saw was the fact that there was people who were actually getting paid to do it.
yeah,
But the people who were getting paid to do it were actually associated with clubs rather than it being outside people. Like, those people within the clubs were charging fees to get kids to come to them to do it on top of their club fees.
yeah. Yeah.
I think outside of that, like, whilst I was there, I did the under 16s. And the coach I was with was more worried about kind of the X's and O's side of things. So it was mostly me doing the skill stuff. But I think from what I saw, for the most part, it's just that mix of the skills trainers. Some teams have obviously high-level coaches who are doing a mix of it all in between. And then there's just more basketball to be played, which is another big thing.
Yeah. Just the culture, I'm guessing, in both countries a bit different from England. England, everyone's out there playing
sure.
football. Yeah. How do you do it? You said something about, like when your coach and your assistant is like, he's only doing X's and O's. How do you deal with that when like the club's very based in one way and then you are coach another way? Do you feel like that's a tough thing to do, or do you just sort of fall in line?
Well, I mean, you know what my personality is like. So I ended up kind of in moments taking over a little bit, which I obviously now understand I probably shouldn't have done, but I think me and the coach had quite a good understanding of, like, he was good with the X's and O's, like I was a little bit better with the player development type stuff, so he'd give me like parts of practices to go through stuff, and then he'd take other parts of practices. And then same with games, even those some games that I would take more of a lead in, some games he would take more of a lead in, depending on what it kind of needed. So it worked out quite well.
That's good.
Yeah. Obviously now you're at Edge Prep, so it's behind you. Yeah. What's it like over there? What's the standard like over there at
It's
Prep?
great. Well, so we got 4 teams. Top team is right at the top of North America. We played 3 different EYBL teams this year. Lost by less than 15 to all of them, and we've been in the game for the whole time. Like, each game came down to the last couple of minutes. Where I think we're ranked 2nd in the country now. We've got multiple D1 guys, multiple U Sport guys. So definitely at the top, very strong. Our black teams, like, they're in between like the high school and the prep. So it's like upper end high school, with some older guys, some like U19s who play in a higher level league as well out here. And then our 2 younger teams are both kind of more development sided.
What's the pathway like in Canada? Not just Edge Prep particular, like as a country, because the pathway here is more up to 18s, and then there's no further really progression onto anything else. What's it like in Canada? Like, is there more of a pathway past the junior program, or is it similar to our country?
Well, I think the biggest difference is that the universities and colleges here actually have sports programs which are constantly competing. So the like the CCAA, that's like our local college route. They've got some top teams, and especially now with all the NIL stuff and the moving of people in the NCAA, like, guys are coming back, and there's some solid college guys, and that's another good route for guys. There's also U Sport, which is like the university over here, which is a big thing. Like, most guys, that's where they're trying to go. And after a couple of years, if they do well at U Sport, then that's when they're trying to transfer out. And then obviously there's also the CEBL, I think it's called, the Canadian Basketball League, which is like their professional league too. So there's definitely a few more options, like a few more high level options for guys who are wanting to go after school's kind of done.
Yeah. I mean, over here, all you ever hear is, oh, I want to go States, I want to go States. You never really hear like, oh, I'm going Canada. Like, do you think that's a
Yeah,
good option for
I
people
think-
over here?
I think there's definitely a big misconception with the whole going to the States.
Yeah, in what sense?
Most definitely. I think the skill set isn't necessarily that big of a difference, because obviously we're talking about the top, probably like 2-3% in England, realistically, who are probably going to try and go out to a different country. So I don't think the skill set's a big difference, but the physicality and things are definitely a bigger difference. But I think in Canada in general, most also go compete in American tournaments or go compete against American competition. For the most part, the schooling is going to be a little bit better. It's also going to be a little bit cheaper. Like, most guys who go to the States, they're not getting a full ride. So then with the schools in the States, that you're paying X amount of money to potentially be on their 5th team or their 6th team. Like, there's also, with the preps in the States, they have a lot more teams so that they can pay for the higher teams.
Yeah. Yeah. You think prep's a good option for people? Because obviously when we were sort of growing up, preps and junior colleges were almost like, you don't go to them. But now how the landscape is, prep seems to be quite a good option for people, I feel.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a good option. I think, surprisingly, I think actually doing it earlier rather than later is a
Yeah.
better option. Like, I think coming out to a prep when you're 16, 17, so you get a couple of years in that type of landscape is a lot better than trying to just do it when you're 18.
Yeah, but I guess does that no matter what prep you go to, it's quite hard to know what sort of standard to go to because there's obviously good preps, bad preps.
Yeah, that is completely fair. I think obviously I can more so only speak to here in that sense. Like I think here is it's definitely a come for a couple of years. And I think
Yeah.
for most people who are wanting to go to the States as their final option, like that's like the end goal, I do think trying to do it earlier rather than later is always a better option.
Yeah.
Back to your time in Australia, what was like the education and basketball system like coexisting? Because here there's like a bit of a struggle at the moment between education and basketball, and obviously in Canada it's a bit more defined like America where they're a lot closer together. So what was it like in Australia, like working together?
Yeah, in Australia it was kind of similar to England, honestly. Like there wasn't really much in terms of perhaps there's a few and things like that, but it was more so like you're playing for your high school and then you're playing for your club. Like there wasn't many things which coexisted together. And if it did coexist together, like if schools had a team and things like that, they're not of the highest of levels. But
Do
then
you
I think
think
for post-secondary, it's similar to here a little bit.
do you think like the Canadian option where they're together is better or worse? Because then your education and basketball are tied together in one, and wherever you go, that has to be for both. Or do you think it works better because they balance out and work well with each other?
I think they do work well together. I think it also depends on how willing other places are to work with clubs. Because I think if you had, let's say you had a school which was willing to accommodate around like a club, I think that's also another really viable option. But obviously you can't really argue with, I mean, you're in college right now, so you kind of getting a feel for it yourself, what it's like here, I guess, in a way. Like we get 2 hours on court every day, 8 to 10 in school time, Monday to Friday. And then you go do schooling from 10 to 3, and then you'll maybe have practice once or twice after school. So like in the sense of everything's in the same place, everything's kind of put together and it's all made so it all helps one another. Because even though we're a sports school, if you're not doing your academics and if you're not kind of pulling your weight and doing the things you're supposed to do, then equally the sport then gets taken away. So I think it also just really depends on how you do it. Like how it's actually done is more sort of the thing rather than I think who's doing it and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. You know, for kids that so from England, want to go over to the States or to Canada, what would be the things that you would say are like the main things they have to be able to do? Because over here at the moment, it seems kids just think they have to score 30 in this league and that's going to get them somewhere. What are like the qualities coaches over there actually looking for?
For everything. We want guys who can defend, guys who are going to be good energy pieces, people who obviously you have to have a decent skill set, but there's enough coaches who are going to try and equal make you better. So it's more so character pieces, being able to defend the ball, making sure you have a decent basketball IQ, you kind of know what's happening, you know what should be going on. And then another thing is if you can shoot.
Yeah.
But I
biggest
think
skill.
I think the big thing is though is that film is king. So if you don't have a full game tape that you can show to a coach, it's always going to be a struggle. Like I've had a few people reach out and the first thing I've asked for is, can I see a full game? Because we want to look at what do you do if you pass the ball and your teammates drops a pass? What do you do if you get subbed off? Like, how are you reacting to these situations? Because if you're uncoachable, then it doesn't matter how good you are.
Yeah, I don't think kids realise that over here. You've got guys soaking all the time and then sending that game tape off.
Yeah. And highlights are great, but if all your highlights are scoring, then you're only proving you can do one thing. And realistically, speaking from experience, the guys who can score at home would struggle to score here for the most part.
Why is that?
Physicality is completely different. the size of guys is completely different. The speed which the game's played at is different.
Yeah.
And especially
IQ.
if people are trying to play one-on-one, it's going to be a struggle.
What was the biggest struggles of you going over there? More like, not even a basketball sense, like what were the biggest sort of like culture shocks? Because players talk about they want to go somewhere all the time, but I don't think they realise that there's a lot of time off court. How was that adjusting going to all these different countries?
Yeah, I mean, Australia was a struggle. As you know, we've spoken about it quite a lot outside of here. That was definitely a culture shock where we were. I would say a lot of difference in opinions of how things should or shouldn't be said and the way people should and shouldn't speak to one another. But I mean, at the same time, no culture shocking even the fact that it was 30 degrees basically the whole 8 months we lived there, which
Yeah.
you think is, oh, great, like, love that. And then once you're in it and you're constantly in it, it's trying to work in it, trying to like actually live life in it. It's like, oh, yeah, maybe that's not as good as what you think. But here, like, the culture shock's not been as big, I don't feel like. I think because I've been lucky enough to kind of visit America quite a bit. Like just on holidays and things, like this was kind of how I expected Canada to be. So I didn't really get as much of a culture shock as what other people could get.
Yeah. I know I was always admire about you, Jason. You've gone to all these places and it's like, you kind of just like rock up to these places and you like, just have this supreme confidence that I'll sort it out. I'll get something. I wonder where that sort of confidence comes from because I'll be honest, I don't have that. I couldn't just rock up to Canada and be like, yeah, I'll land on my feet. Like, where did that come from?
The funny thing is, I only have it with basketball. I don't have it generally in other walks of life. You can call it what you want. Like I've always said, I'm like a little bit cocky, arrogant when it comes to basketball. I just kind of always have been. I don't know if that's just, I guess, like how the adrenaline of it has always played out in me as a person. I think as well, just the fact that I know I'm going to do everything I can to make it happen. I mean, you kind of mentioned it at the start, but as soon as I got to Magic, I was doing everything I could, every day I could. I was there basically 7 days a week doing everything that I physically could to get better. And I think once I got here, obviously I got lucky in the sense of I reached out to the right place. Obviously the director of Edge, Eddie, he helped me out a lot. He was also the director of the club I'm at. So I kind of met him. I ended up hit the club summer camps. Like he trusted me to put me in charge of the summer camps, and I basically did that the whole summer when I got here. So I think it is a mix of like luck, but also the fact that I know I'm just gonna work my ass off. Sorry, pardon my language, but work as hard as I can to make it happen.
Yeah. It seems like the progression over there is pretty good. Like every time you tell me something, it's like, oh yeah, I'm doing this now, I'm doing that. Do you feel like over there's like a good pathway for coaches to sort of like progress and move on?
Yeah, I definitely think it is. Like I said, like here especially, I think the way they've set it up is to try and help with that. Obviously, our director of basketball is a higher up within Alberta basketball, so like our territory. And then also our athletic director is higher up within Canada basketball. And you know a lot of people, so there's been a lot of people who have moved on from here to go to like U Sport and things like that. So there's definitely a good progression path. And then obviously equally people just want to help out, which is nice. Like I've had more help here with different things, whether it's been on court or off court, than anywhere since leaving home. Like it's been great in that sense. Like people just actually want to help as long as you show that you're willing to kind of do your part, your side and everything too.
Do you see a big difference in like juniors here? I feel like there's a big problem with attitude and like mentality that isn't really spoken about or overlooked. Do you reckon there's a big difference change to Canada, and that's the main reason why maybe the skill set and like average level in competition's higher, or would you say it's other factors?
I'm not sure on that one because there's still some of them struggles for sure. with attitudes, with different things like that. I do think it comes down to there's just a better bottom level of people. So in terms of like obviously whether it's skills trainers, whether it's parents who have played at a decent level and then they're bringing the kids up and now they're teaching the kids what they know. I think just in general there's just a higher level of knowledge surrounding basketball and a higher like ability level from that. Whether it's from parents coaching their own kids or whether it's from whatever it may be.
Yeah. What would you do, like, Jason, if you came back here, which hopes at some point you do, but, you know, what would you do differently, like, when you coached over here now? Like, what have you sort of gained and what would you sort of bring back?
I think it's definitely a hard one to say. I think I would make sure I'm using my time more effectively and not be so caught up on making everything be picture perfect. Like I know there's a lot of kind of still coaches, but even just drillers in general out there where everything's, we want it done a set way to do a set thing, to do this and to do that. Whereas there is way too much chaos in basketball for it to be that way. And like people still need to do it the perfect way, the ideal way, but then they also need to be able to figure out their own way to do something. So I think mixing in a little bit more of that, a little bit more of the chaos side of it would definitely be a big thing, because I remember when I was doing the under-13s at home, everyone took your word exactly to the point of what you told them to do. For the most part, the kids that listened. Like it was, if we say to go here, this is exactly where they're going to go, and then they're not going to think and actually just play basketball and let it be. So I think trying to let them have more creativity in that would probably help too.
Yeah, we play like robots sometimes over here. Do you think
Yeah.
that is down to
Well,
more
then
the
there's other times where-
coaches?
Yeah. And then there's other times though where it's like, it looks amazing, the basketball. But I think the biggest thing, which is, I guess it's kind of off subject, but the biggest struggle in England is the fact that there's no set anything. There's no set style of play. There's no real, are we trying to be FIBA? Are we trying to be American basketball? Like, where are we fitting in this? Like, the North versus the South, it's two completely different styles. Whereas here, for instance, like, everyone's more so on the same page. Not all running the same stuff, but you can see that there's definitely a clear, this is what we're trying to do. Same with Australia. Those are more of a clear, like, from top to bottom, team to team, like, this is the kind of style we're looking for. This is the style of play we want as a country.
Yeah, but again, is that coming from the idea that we're trying to create for our national team?
Well, yeah, I definitely think that's part of it.
Yeah, but in England, I don't know how GB play. You know what I mean? So
Definitely
how do you
not.
develop someone for GB when I don't have a clue what they need, what's the sort of emphasis of the country?
Yeah, and equally, we don't know. There's not enough actually shown for what they want at each age group. Like what we actually looking for when we take an under-15 England team somewhere. Are we just looking for the 15 best players, or are we going to try and be like Spain, where they pick guys to actually fill the roles? Like what's the idea that we're trying to go for? I think that's a big thing which is missing, which is something that if I did come back would be the thing I'd be trying to help with, but obviously not high enough up to be doing anything like that.
Yeah, but then how do you even get into that as well? It's like hard to get into, isn't it? Like,
Well, yeah.
you know, right now you're over
That's
there.
the-
You know, you're over there. You could maybe help, but I'm sure nobody would even consider getting in touch. Or
Yeah, well, I've reached out. I've emailed to see when the postings are going to be to ask the question, but like you say, like people, they're either set with who they want, which is fine, or they're just ignorant to what else is out there. Because there's so many coaches in so many different countries.
Yeah, Jason, now you're like coaching is now your profession. It's no longer just like an after work thing you do for an outside club. Do you reckon that's benefited you with, you can dedicate all your time to it more and you'll learn more through it? or do you think it's become more stressful as now that's your full-time job and there's a lot more stress on you? So do you think it's helped you more or put a bit more stress on you?
I think it's definitely both. I think it's definitely helped me more, especially because I'm around high level coaches. So it means that I can pick guys' brains more and definitely get more from it in that way. And then also working with higher levels of talent. So you can do a bit more, try and do some higher concepts. Obviously, as a job now, it's stressful. Working stressful, especially when it's not just a job. It's linked to my visa. It's linked to me to be able to be in the country. I think that's more where the stress comes from. Because at the end of the day, it's still basketball. I think for me, more the stress comes from the fact that I know it's linked to so many different things for me to also be living in another country. But that's like where I get stressed.
Yeah. What do you do about that stress though? Like, how do you deal? Because I have a big thing about like, I have a bad practice and I'll be like stressed about that until the next one. You have any like coping mechanisms, or what do you actually do when you've got that stress? Like, how do you sort of like forget about it?
I just talk, probably more than what I should, but I just go vent to somebody, anyone that's going to listen for that time. I mean, I've messaged you multiple times about different things, venting to you. There's a couple of coaches at the school that I talk to frequently, like just trying to either vent about practices or I talk about what they're seeing that maybe I'm missing. I just try and just find a logical way to make it better so that I'm not worrying so much about it. And I think the other big thing is just trying to find downtime to not actually do anything.
How do you find it with obviously changing clubs now and different countries? How do you find, especially like Magic, we're a very traditional based team, like we have standards throughout the whole club. How do you find it changing each club and then adapting to what they expect and what their standards throughout our morals? Like, how do you find that changing so much?
I think the biggest thing is that you've just got to be what they need you to be. So if a club wants you to be a type of way, then you've just got to be that way. Obviously, sometimes that's difficult. Sometimes you want to be more or less strict or whatever the case is. Normally for me, it's been right about where I'd like it to be. But I think for the most part, in Australia and here, it's more so it's the coach's choice. And as long as it doesn't create any type of ill will or anything to any one particular player or anything like that, it's like the club has their standards, but it's also down to you to create your own team standards too. Same way at Magic, even though we have club standards, different coaches treat those standards differently. I'm sure you've felt that, Harley, through the years. Different coaches have different standards and treat the standard differently to one another. And I feel like they're always more so a baseline rather than like this is set in stone, this is what everyone has to be like, as much as sometimes people want it to be that way.
Yeah. As a player yourself, Jason, knowing now what you know from being in Canada, Australia, is there anything you would have done differently as a player? Like if you could take the knowledge you have now and go back to when you was younger, maybe 16 or even younger, what would you have done differently? Maybe gone to Canada early or just changed how you trained or anything?
I would have honestly started lifting weight earlier. I didn't start lifting weight until the summer before I got hurt when I was like 15. So definitely start lifting weight earlier to get stronger. I would have took things more seriously because I was one who, when I was paired with certain people at practices, I would be a little bit more laxed and relaxed. And then the other big one is I would have come to Magic earlier. I think obviously Tom knows this, I don't know if you do, Harley, but I came when I was like in year 7. I was playing on the people above me with like Kayem, Mason, a bunch of other guys, but socially I didn't like it. I felt out of my comfort zone, so I left. And I do think that was one of the biggest detriments to kind of me improving too, because then that's when I kind of got put into that, well, you're the biggest kid, so this is what you are. Whereas if I would have stayed, then I wouldn't have had that, and I would have had another 2-3 years of development doing everything.
Is it different in Canada? Because everyone always says like a massive problem with UK basketball is that whenever we find a child young that's tall, we just put them under the basket and don't really develop them. Is it the same? Does Canada have the same problem, or is it more development of all the skill sets?
I think it depends on where you are. I think there still definitely is some of that. I think that's going to be the same everywhere in the world. I don't think really anywhere is going to be different in that respect, because sometimes people put winning above what's actually best for the kid. But I do think there's definitely a better job of giving them better skill sets. Whether that means in a game they might be might be different, but for at least in terms of like actually teaching skills, like everyone for the most part does everything. Like, I mean, here at the school, for instance, we've got a 6'8" guy, another 6'8" guy, 6'7", a 6'6", and they can all, don't get me wrong, they're not like unbelievably skilled compared to a 6'2" guy, but they're not needing to be. But they can bring the ball down with pressure if they need to. They can beat guys off the dribble if they need to. It's not like they're just go stand in the post and go from the ball inside to them. So it's definitely more rounded to everyone needs to do everything.
What are they running over there a lot more? Are they running a lot more 5-out stuff? Or are they big 4-out, 1 in? What are we doing over there? Because if you're saying everyone can do everything, then I'd assume most people on the perimeter over there are.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends. Like, the club I'm at is more so kind of Euro ball screen action, so continuous ball screens. A little bit of kind of 4-out, 1 in, but then it's like drive, kick, swing, 4-out, 1 in. But then there's a couple of teams in the club who are doing 5-out. So obviously I'm doing 5-out with my U11s. The U13s, who are a strong group, are doing 5-out too. And then other clubs, I think it all just depends on the coach. We're quite lucky that we've got quite a lot of coaches who are doing it as their profession or have done it as their profession. So like, they're trying to do the best thing for the kids, but then other clubs maybe aren't so much the same.
I'm wondering, Jason, because I've always thought this, and maybe it's a selfish question for me, but I've always thought, is it worth it trying to take coaching elsewhere and just trying to find your way? Is coaching actually worth doing that? Because I've always thought, well, is it better what I'm doing now, almost just sort of staying? Or do you think it is better to try and push yourself and, go coach in Australia, go coach in Canada? Like, do you feel like you learn more there, or do you feel like you're just sort of like drifting around a little bit?
I think in Australia, I definitely felt like I was drifting around a bit. But obviously that was probably more the personal side of it, if I didn't really want to be there as much. Here, I definitely feel like I'm learning more. But again, I'm quite lucky in the fact that my way of learning is seeing people do stuff. Like, I'm not really, as much as obviously you said about how I take notes and things like that, like, it's more, that's just to remind myself of what I'm seeing. So I definitely think I've learned more in that sense, just because I'm around higher level basketball on a daily basis. But it's a tough one. I do think it depends on how long you've been doing it, how comfortable you are where you are, how young you are potentially too, kind of like what ties you have outside of basketball. Obviously I was 22, 21 when I left. So I didn't really have, obviously outside my family, didn't really have much keeping me there outside of kind of basketball. So it was obviously a lot easier to pick up and leave and go try and do it. But if I'd been working at a club for a while and for the most part it was good and things like that, I do think it would have been harder. But I do definitely think if you've got the passion, it's the only thing you want to do in your life, then why not? Because there's going to be more opportunities elsewhere than there is in England. Like, I don't know the number on it. I think maybe you might have told me it or somebody else. But I know that there's only a handful of paid jobs, for instance, in England.
Yeah.
Whereas here, we'll just use here, for instance, and we're not even staff-wise one of the biggest, I don't think. We've got 6 full-time paid members of staff. So that in itself is like, it's a big difference. So there's definitely opportunities. It's just trying to put yourself in that uncomfortable position to go try and take those opportunities. And then also finding people who are willing to give you the chance to get that opportunity too.
Yeah. Why do you coach, Jason?
To get people better. It's always been the biggest thing. Get people better. Try and help people get to where they want to be, to make them better people. Or not even just better at basketball, just better people in general. Try and help
Sure.
them with all the different things.
Well, Jason, I think we're going to end it there with our last question. We'll call the Next Possession podcast, Jason. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knows that. He knows that. So what's next for you, Jason? What's next in your coaching? What's next? I don't really care what's next, but like, what's next game? What's next for you?
Yeah, I mean, to keep progressing here is the hope. See what next year brings. Should still be around, so we'll see where hopefully I can get higher up in the system in that sense. And then I'm going to try and start doing my Canadian basketball licensing too, hopefully. So that'll be the
Okay.
other thing. And then
Well,
keeping on my way to trying to get permanent residency too. It's a process,
yeah, I'm sure you'll get it, Jason.
hopefully.
Well, thanks, Jason.
Yeah. Thank you, Jason, for coming on the Next Possession podcast. It's been
Well,
great
thank you guys,
catching up with
appreciate
you.
it.
And yeah, we'll see you later
Yeah, see you later. See you on the next episode.
on the next episode.
Subscribe. Hey, cheers, Jason.